I'm going to quote the great Shannon Sharp here. You have told me again and again, you told me on Friday, the body of work, we're 7 years in now, and you keep telling me he is middle of the pack, Dak.
Yeah, the sample size. Now, you give me that sample size.
Yes.
It was you that gave me the sample size.
That is correct. But it's a big, broad sample size. We got lots of information.
7 years.
We got 7 years.
All right, so once again, the Dallas Cowboys end up losing in the divisional round. So there's a good amount of people that blame Mike McCarthy for the loss in the playoffs, but then there's also a good amount of people, including the Dallas Cowboys Twitter account, that blames Dak Prescott for the loss. So Dak Prescott ended up throwing 2 interceptions, to which both those interceptions made the difference in the game because they ended up losing. I won't say because of it, but it didn't help their chances though for those 2 turnovers. Side note, before I continue on my actual, what I'm going to say, Dallas Cowboys Twitter account should not have did that. They shouldn't have called out Dak Prescott like that, man. That was wrong with them to do. But back to the topic at hand. So at this point in time, we know what Dak Prescott really is, bro. At this point, he's just a guy where, he could be a fringe top 10 to, top 13 QB in the league, to where some days he'll have a good game, and some days he'll just have a bad game to where I'm like, what is he doing? And this year was just no different, man, because, again, for the 7th year in a row, he had an up and down season. Dak Prescott in the 2020 season, man, he ended up having 2,860 yards, 23 passing touchdowns, and 15 interceptions, to which that tied for the league in interceptions, too, for the year. What's crazy is the fact that, he ended up tying the league in interceptions with none other than Davis Mills, bro. He tied with Davis Mills, and Dak Prescott played less games than him, too, because he only played 12 games. And I know he had an injury early this year, too, but, it doesn't excuse from the fact that, you shouldn't be turning the ball over like this. And what makes it even worse is the fact that, we know that Dak Prescott is capable of having those great games where he throws for, 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. But, now, he's getting to the point where, scarily, he's in that Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr range to where, he's just good enough to actually help you win a game, but also not that good enough to where you can win a championship. And honestly, at this point, he's looking very, very similar to a certain guy that used to be just like him in a way.
We've seen this story before. You know what it was called? Marvin Lewis and Andy Dalton. It's a good coach. It's a fine quarterback. Andy Dalton. Make the playoffs every year. Yeah. Well, I think that Marvin might be a little better than Mike and that Dak is better than Dalton, but still, team good enough to make the playoffs, good enough that they never did together, but you thought they could win a playoff game, but they can't win the Super Bowl.
So, do y'all remember those memes where, Andy Dalton would be the clown of the jokes for being, in the middle of the stick, where, you measure who's a franchise QB to who's not a franchise QB? So, back then, they called it the Dalton scale, to which that's basically what it means. And in other words, we call it quarterback purgatory. And guess where Dak Prescott is in right now? Yes, Dak Prescott is officially in quarterback purgatory. It is not a great place to be in either. And what's crazy is the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are now in bad territory because since Dak Prescott is the QB, Dak Prescott is not that bad to where they could get a top 10 pick. But Dak Prescott is not that good to where they could just win the Super Bowl. And it's always tough because now the Dallas Cowboys are in the bind where now that they gonna have to just get rid of the coach and give him a better coach, to which Mike McCarthy is not a bad coach, honestly. No matter how bad he does with his time officials and stuff like that, he's not that bad of a coach. And shoot, I would love to see Dak Prescott and them proving wrong though with this, because if he could just somehow blow him to the Super Bowl, then that's great for them. But honestly, I don't see it because now when I think of Dak Prescott, I just think of him as just a floor raiser. And with him and Mike McCarthy too, but he's just a floor raiser. He's not a ceiling raiser. And of course, some teams are just content with having a high floor, to which that's what they like, then that's fine with them, bro. I ain't mad. But there's going to be a point in time to where, you're tired of just being glad to be in the playoffs and you want to win it all. And that's the Dallas Cowboys' expectations every year. Just go to the Super Bowl. So to drive home my whole Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott comparison, take a look at these stats right here. So the top one is Dak Prescott's numbers, and the bottom is Andy Dalton's numbers. And they all from a 7-year span, so I did make it to where they had the same amount of years, and they are similar numbers. I know the interceptions are high for Andy Dalton, but still, like, they had similar numbers. And back then, Andy Dalton was known as a guy to where, like, he will not play good in big games when you need him the most. And guess what Dak Prescott does in big games nowadays? Yeah, that's what I thought. And then this usually happens when, like, you have, like, high expectations for him, too, when they know they're capable of having great games, but, like, they just don't when you need them the most. Now, is Dak Prescott better than Andy Dalton? Of course he is. Like, he's definitely better than him. Shoot, Andy Dalton has never won a playoff game in his career, so, like, at least Dak done that at least 3 times in his career. But to what point to where, like, just being good enough to make the playoffs and potentially win a playoff game is just enough for y'all? Like, what point do you have to be to where, like, y'all just tired of being just good enough? Because honestly, just being good enough is what's going on with Dallas Cowboys right now, to where, like, they have this great roster. They have a QB to where, like, you have questions about him. Then of course he has that stretch where he plays good. Then he has a game where he just doesn't play good. Then they make the playoffs, and then they win at least one playoff game. Then they just eliminate and be disappointed like they always do. It's like a never-ending cycle where, like, you know what you're capable of, but, like, you can only get to a certain spot to where you know you can get to, but you can't go above and beyond to where you can be. So am I advocating for Dak Prescott to lose his job? No, I'm not advocating for that. If anything, like, I think he's better than what people give him credit for. And he does have his games where he just doesn't play good. What I'm trying to say is the fact that, like, if Dak Prescott just plays consistently great football and rarely had those bad games, he could just pull his team to the Super Bowl. Like, because that roster is a great roster, honestly. But until that happens, and I see what I keep seeing from Dak Prescott, he's gonna be in quarterback purgatory, and it's hard to get out of until one or the other happens. Either the coaching change happens or the QB change happens. And honestly, for Dak Prescott's sake, you do not want the quarterback change to happen. And believe it or not, I'm rooting for Dak Prescott to get out of the quarterback purgatory, honestly. So that's going to do it for me, guys, man. Like, I was, like, very intrigued to actually talk about this because, like, I've been feeling this way for a long time about Dak, and now it just came to fruition. And honestly, I'm rooting for Dak Prescott, believe it or not. Because, like, that's the worst thing for your franchise to go through, to be in quarterback purgatory. But definitely let me know if you agree or disagree with what I said. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, and share the video for more videos like this. But until next time, though, this is Nosley 27 in the building, about to sign out. Y'all have a great day, and see y'all in the next video.